Louis Zamperini was never an ordinary child. Growing up in Torrance, California, he was a wild spirit, a troublemaker who stole food, fought in the streets, and outran anyone who tried to catch him. His Italian immigrant parents feared he would end up in jail. But his older brother, Pete, saw something different. He saw speed. Determined to save him, Pete pushed Louis toward track and field, hammering into him, "You have a gift. Don't waste it." At first, Louis resisted. But as he trained, something shifted. Running gave him a sense of purpose, a place to funnel his boundless energy. Day after day, he raced around the dusty streets, leaving everyone in the dust. The track became his battlefield, and winning became his way of surviving. By high school, Louis was smashing records, astonishing the local crowds with his seemingly effortless strides. At 19, he qualified for the 1936 Olympics in Berlin. Although he didn't win a medal, he caught the world's attention by running the fastest final lap ever recorded, an astonishing burst of speed that left the crowd roaring. Returning home, but the world spiraled into chaos. World War II erupted, and Louis, like many of his generation, answered the call to serve. He joined the U.S. Army Air Forces as a bombardier, soaring across the Pacific on dangerous missions. Fate intervened during a search mission when his B-24 bomber, the Green Hornet, malfunctioned and crashed into the Pacific Ocean. The impact was brutal. Amid the wreckage, only Louis, pilot Phil, and tail gunner Max survived. Clinging to two small rafts, they drifted into the unknown, with little food, no water, and no rescue in sight. The ocean became a merciless enemy. Sharks circled beneath, brushing their fins against the raft. Hunger gnawed at their bodies. Sunlight scorched their skin. Louis improvised fishing lines from threads of the raft, catching tiny fish with bare hands. When rain finally came, they lifted their faces to the sky, desperate for every drop. Days turned to weeks. One night, a Japanese plane discovered them, raking bullets across the water. Miraculously, they survived by diving under their raft as it was shredded. The attack left their fragile hope even thinner. After 33 days, Max succumbed to starvation and fear. Louis and Phil, skeletal and barely conscious, pressed on. Then, after 47 days, they spotted land. Relief surged, only to be crushed when a Japanese warship appeared on the horizon. Captured, they were dragged into a brutal existence at Japanese POW camps. The conditions were inhumane: starvation, disease, backbreaking labor. But the real terror came when Louis met Matsuhiro, the bird, Watanabe. The bird was not an ordinary guard. He was a sadistic tyrant obsessed with breaking the will of his prisoners, and Louis, with his Olympic fame, became his prime target. Each day was a gauntlet of humiliation and brutality. The bird beat Louis with belts, sticks, fists, anything he could find. He forced Louis to clean filthy latrines with bare hands, to bow repeatedly until dizziness overtook him, to stand perfectly still for hours in the searing sun. One infamous day, the bird handed Louis a heavy wooden beam and ordered him to lift it above his head. The order was clear: if he dropped it, he would be executed. Trembling, battered, yet unbowed, Louis lifted the beam. Minutes stretched endlessly. His vision blurred, blood trickled down his arms, but he locked his knees and gritted his teeth. Other prisoners watched in stunned silence, silently willing him to endure. After nearly 40 minutes, Louis collapsed, but not before proving that the bird could not conquer him. The psychological warfare was just as relentless. Louis was offered chances to broadcast propaganda messages for better treatment. Tempting as it was, he refused. His loyalty to his country remained unshaken, even when the punishment grew more severe. One cruel day, the guards lined up the prisoners and forced each man to punch Louis in the face. Over 200 blows rained down. Some prisoners, weeping, tried to strike lightly, but the bird demanded harder hits. Bloodied and barely able to stand, Louis never cried out, never surrendered. The war dragged on. Louis was transferred from camp to camp, each more brutal than the last. In a cruel twist, the bird resurfaced at each new location, continuing his personal campaign of terror. Finally, one morning, the drone of unfamiliar planes filled the sky. American bombers swept low, dropping food, supplies, and pamphlets announcing Japan's surrender. The war was over. The nightmare had ended. The prisoners erupted into cheers and sobs, hugging, dancing, collapsing with relief. Freedom felt surreal. Louis weighed barely 80 pounds, a walking skeleton, but he was alive. Returning home to California, Louis was celebrated as a hero. Yet inside, he carried invisible wounds. Nightmares of the bird haunted him. The boy who once outran police in the dusty streets of California became a symbol of hope for generations, living proof that, if you can take it, you can make it.